Hello and welcome to this episode of the Worship Band Builder podcast, where we are working with you to lay the foundations for skillful worship. I'm Eric Roberts, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Emily Roberts.
Hello, everybody.
And today we're talking about something that's so fun. Sound equipment and mostly monitors. We're going to talk about monitors.
Are you getting excited?
Yes, get super excited about this. This is probably, I'm excited because it's a gear episode and it's kind of geeky and we get to talk about all these little things. And because of that, make sure you go to worshipbandbuilder.com/podcasts. You can see this episode. You can see the show notes. You can see all the links to the Amazon links, like to our monitors, our inner monitors.
But can they get sausage links?
And you can get sausage links. Do you have any quotes for us today on this episode?
No quotes. I wish I had some sausage links, but no quotes.
Okay, so we are going to, because this is going to be slam-packed episode of just really great stuff. We're going to get into it. Can we get into it?
Let's do it.
We're going to talk about monitors, and I'm going to get technical. There's two ways to get a mix to your monitors, okay? There's two different ways. Aux mixes, okay, which is off your board, auxiliary mix, or through an Aviom system or a Cat 5 system like Aviom called a personal mixer. And right now, in this moment in history, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, back 10 years ago, Aviom was the big personal monitor mix thing, but now they're coming out with iPhone things and Bluetooth things and all these things.
Yes, they would.
Yes, they would. And then there are three ways. So there's two ways to get the mix to yourself, okay? Either through an auxiliary mix, the old school, and I'll call it old school, or this new way through personal mixers. And there's three ways to deliver that sound to your ears. Three, at least, main ways that we're going to talk about. Number one is floor monitors, old school, all right?
Wedge.
The Wedge. Number two is small personal monitors. Okay, that's sort of like, it's just a little bit different than floor monitors. But I put it on there because it works well in church. And then the third way is through in-ear monitors.
Is that your favorite?
No, that's not my favorite.
It's not your favorite?
No. I kind of actually hate in-ear monitors. But later in the episode, we're going to talk about why I hate them and why I love them.
Yes.
It is a love-hate relationship.
Okay.
But if you can't hear yourself, you're sunk. Why?
Well, because if you can't hear yourself, at least in relation to the rest of the music, then you will sound bad, just bad.
Yeah, if you can't, like when you're watching TV and you hear a really good singer singing all flat, and we're sitting there like, yeah, I don't think they can hear themselves. You can't hear yourself or the other musicians. It's hard to stay on rhythm. It's hard to sing on pitch. I get really cranky, and I don't even want to play if I can't hear myself. So you have to be able to hear other people too. Why?
Well, same reason. It's all your pitch. Well, at least as a vocalist. Okay, I'm speaking as a vocalist. Your pitch is relative to what is being played.
Yeah, and like if you're the drummer, you got to be able to hear the bass player and the guitar players. If you're a guitar player, you got to be able to hear the drummer because you're playing together.
The drummer is holding everybody together rhythmically. So
if I can't hear myself, I am in a really bad mood. Okay?
Yeah, I don't mean rhythmically. I just mean the tempo. He is holding the tempo for everybody.
We hope he is.
I mean, he should be.
He should be. Drummers.
Please, drummers.
Shame on you that aren't holding the tempo. You know who you are. All right, so let's go with number one, the old school Wedge monitors, and we'll talk about them. There's two different types of them, and we talk about them more in our webinars. Powered and non-powered. Powered, for those kind of newbie sound people out there, you can think of them as the ones with the little blue lights on them. They actually have power in them, and they have power amps built into them, and they're cranking out, and they're really the newer ones. I have links to these Behringer Eurolive B21Ds, which are basically just, little 12-inch powered floor wedges for about $200 to $300 or so. And I have a link on there. If they're non-powered, then you have to have power amps and all that stuff. And we talk about that, I think, in some of our past webinars. So basically, regardless of that, they're sitting on the floor, they're pointing up at your face, and somehow your voice is coming out of them. Okay?
Yes.
And your voice is also coming out of the main speakers going to the audience.
Yes.
So this is also, just think about that. You have a mix that's coming out of the floor, Wedge, to your face.
Right.
And then you have a mix coming out of your mains to the audience. There's two different mixes going on. That's why I called it an auxiliary mix. On a mixing board, you have your main house mix and your auxiliary mix. Now, in a mixing board, there can be 2 auxiliaries, 4 auxiliaries, 8 auxiliaries, and each one of those auxiliaries can go to a different band member. The drummer, the bass player, the guitar player, the vocalist. They can all have their own individual auxiliary mix.
They can.
They can. It gets complicated.
It does. When the sound person is required to make the monitors accommodate everyone that is on the stage, that gets complicated. And especially because most of these, at least if you have the larger monitors, you're not going to have a monitor for each individual. Probably 2 or 3 of you on one side of the stage are sharing the monitor. And each person needs to be able to hear themselves. And what that means is they all want to hear themselves the loudest coming out of the monitor. So it's hard to get a balance where each person is hearing what they need to hear to play at a level of excellence.
Yeah, and that brings me to this. So how do you use a floor wedge? Number one, you gotta, and there's different ways. Keep them close to you. Okay, the closer they are to you, the better. If you can get your own personal floor wedge with your own aux mix, then you can say, I'm aux mix 2, and you can tell the sound guy what you want to hear more, and you're perfect. Keep it close to you, keep the volume down. That's really the best way to do it. If you have a lot of people on the same monitor, you're gonna have to back it up a bit, turn it up a bit, and you just create more noise. Or if you have really only 2 monitors for a whole bunch of band members on stage, I would really put them on the sides of the stage pointing in and call them side fills. So it basically just fills the stage up a little bit, and it's more of an average mix, not an individual personal thing.
So you're also relying on the main house mix. You're hearing some of both.
In a side fill monitor situation where you're just using monitors from the side to point in, you can kind of put the main mix in there, the house mix, and that's pretty good. It just gives you something to hear. Okay, so this is why, and we'll get to those little Aviom mixers or personal monitor mixers. They're so amazing, even with the stage monitor, because you can mix them yourself. If you can mix your own monitor mix from stage, it's a huge, like 1,000,000 times to space better than trying to tell your sound guy a little more vocal, no, a little less guitar. I mean, it's just a lot better. So here's ways I hook them up, okay? Here's the ways I hook up a floor wedge, and I'll tell you what I would do. But from the aux mix, from the main mixing board. So you basically hook the aux mix 1 up to the floor monitor, and you say, I'm in aux 1, and you tell the sound guy, and he does that. Or you can go out of an Aviom unit or a personal monitor mixer on stage into a floor wedge, which is my favorite way to mix, because then you have complete control over what's coming out of that speaker on the fly with an Aviom unit, and it's also a floor wedge. It's not in your ear, it's actually on the ground.
So if you're not already saddled with a particular sound system, it would probably be more beneficial for people to have more of the mini monitors than fewer and bigger. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, and that's why I think the mini monitor's next. So let me go, so here's another couple ways I hook up, and then we'll do those mini monitors. If you're not saddled, if you have the budget to do a personal monitoring system, then yeah, more smaller, like exactly what you said, more smaller wedges. That's fine. You can put a small amp on the stage right under you. Like I put my little practice amp under me and just turn it right up to my face, and then I can plug my guitar into it. Even if I'm going into the mixer, into the line into the mixer, I still have my little amp just for me, not for people in church are getting weird. Like, we don't want amps on stage, we want a quiet stage, we want all this in-ear stuff. But still, if you want to have a little guitar amp and you point it up to you, I don't find worship leaders when I go places, they don't mind that, because I'm not cranking it up and it's not super loud. It's just right there close to me. Gives me a little bit of sound, okay? Different ways. So it's good for you, so you can do that. It can be a small amp. And like Emily said, number 2, these mini monitors. So they're like little teeny monitors, and I have them on here. Eurolive mini PA monitor, $238 a piece. Or they have another one on there that's like $100. But basically, it's a multi-purpose 150 watt active speaker. It's very small. It can be hooked up to. It can actually be hooked up in between your mic stand, so it can be up close to your face even. So the closer to your face, the lower the volume.
I was going to ask about that. It looked to me like the This was a Behringer
Yeah, that's
model,
a-
yes?
yeah,
the
that was a
Euro
Behringer.
Live. I looked it up on Amazon and it was $238. And it looked to me like you could attach it to a stand so that it would be...
Yeah, you can put it on a stand, and back in the day, they had one that you can actually, one like that you could put in the middle of your music stand. It's mic stand. It's weird because it would come up, it would be there, and then your mic would come out of the top of it.
Oh, really?
So it'd be right there. It'd be
Oh,
sort
well,
of...
this one's cute. It looks like one of those, like, really old-fashioned mini TVs almost.
Yeah, it's a little. And those are great. You put them up closer to your head or closer to your body, and then you can keep them lower, and they're not going to create a bunch of loud noise. The biggest problem with stage monitors is what you said earlier. Everybody wants to be loud. Everybody wants to be loudest, and everybody turns it up, and they keep turning it. Can you put a little more of me, a little more of me? And all of a sudden, it's so loud that the audience can hear the monitor mix louder than they hear the main mix. And that's why most worship leaders are getting that weird, like, we don't want any monitors on stage. We don't want any of this on stage. Because once you get too much noise on stage, you can't mix the room because you got all this
I was going to say there's
stuff.
bleed over.
There's bleed over into the room. So if you really want to do, not have in-ears, but you want to have some small wedges, go more of them, and then just make sure that you control them, that they're low enough so that they're not super, super loud.
I'm sure that everybody up there can be considerate and keep them at a reasonable volume if that's what you're doing. I would think another advantage to these mini ones is just because they're more portable. The one that I looked at was 7 pounds, and I know that the old standard Wedge monitors were not 7 pounds.
Yeah, and I think the Euro Live is a Mackie, just to make that correction. And the Behringer is the B1005. I think the Behringer is 109, and the Euro Live might be a Behringer, but I think that one of those is more expensive and it might be a Mackie. But either way, Mackie or Behringer, they look identical. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
If you look online, you'll see the Euro Live might be a Behringer or it might be a Mackie. I don't know. I'll know later, but I don't know now. The Behringer Euro Live. So yeah, it probably is Euro Live. It probably is Behringer. But I think that anyway, there's one here that's $109, and that link is in our show notes as well. This all makes you guys probably sitting around like, if you're not a musician or if you're just like getting new to this, these guys are really obsessed about monitors. But monitors are all I care about when I go to play somewhere. I'm like, where am I going to hear myself? And can I hear everybody else? And can I be able to play? Am I going to be able to hear what's going on? To add one more thing to this, if you want to lower your stage volume, and we'll do much more of this year on the podcast and in our Foundations sound track, you can put a cage around the drums or get electric drums, get the drums lower, because the only reason why we all want to have the monitors louder is because we can't hear over the drums. So think of this as a holistic approach. Don't just think, well, we got to get bigger monitors. No, how about get a smaller drum set, or how about put the drum set in a cage and just use what you have. It's all about controlling volume over the whole band.
Yes, and a lot of drummers do not like any of those options. They don't like being behind the cage, and they don't like the electric drum kit.
Yeah, and they just finicky. They just complain about everything, those drummers.
Well, but I mean, I guess that is just part of being a team player.
Yeah.
You know, you'd like to be able to just, bang on the drums all day.
As loud as you want and as fast as you want. I know how you drummers are.
But sometimes we have to take one for the team.
And it seems like the shields are a little more acceptable anymore. I mean, even the millennials have shields around their drums now. They think it's cool. You know what I mean? It's like,
they do?
Yeah, and they have these companies that have come out really, really high-end, nice drum cages where they're like very like fishbowl type drum stuff.
Oh, that sounds expensive.
It's expensive, and I found one online. They're about $5,000 or $7,000, but I found a guy who made one legitly for like $1,500. So I'll put some links in the description. But we've made those before too. There's ways to do it, but you have to control the drum volume first. Especially small churches, you really got to control the drum volume first, okay? And then these monitors come into play. Now, if you want to get rid of all stage volume, if you want to get rid of, like all the amps and all the stage monitors and everything, it's a harder road, but there are some It's in-ear monitors. That's number 3. I'm going to tell you why I love them and why I hate them. I've used them pretty extensively, and most of my life I did not use them. They weren't super popular 10, 15, 20 years ago for churches at least.
Well, you always see musicians on TV and they pull those little plugs out of their ears and they're struggling while they're playing because the mix is somehow not right in their ear.
Yeah, and so the in-ear monitors, it's why I love them. I put this down here because I don't want to get on a big rant. You can get your own awesome mix if you're using an app or an Aviom. So you can actually get a really awesome mix inside your head if you're able to use personal mixers. If you can't use a personal mixer, I do not want in-ears in my ear, okay?
Ooh, yeah.
You can save your hearing if you turn you have to turn stuff way down. So if you're in a band scenario where we have some of our churches now I play with, they have the drummer and everything, and I like to put them in because I can turn everybody off. It's like it earplugs them out. And then I can turn myself down real low and play. So I can stand and practice for 2 hours and walk out not feeling like, oh, I just had these drums pounding in my ears for 2 hours. And I love them because you can that's why. You can get rid of the loud stage volume. You can kind of plug your ears up.
Okay.
Okay, here's why. And the added benefit is to these in-ears, you can run a click track and you can run all the click tracks and tracks you want. If you're going to run this type of thing that's kind of modern and new in worship, you have to have in-ears, period. You can't run a click track through a stage monitor.
Without the in-ears, generally only one person on the stage has got the click.
Maybe the drummer, yeah. But he's got to have an in-ear because you can't. So it opens up a lot for what people want to do. They want to sync to a track or they want to do this. They have to have in-ears. And here's why I hate them. Favorite part of the episode. They make you feel disconnected from the performance and audience. Now, there's a way around that, and I'll tell you that. But if the mix isn't perfect, it's distracting. Super distracting. That's why people always yanking those out of their ears, because it's weird. It's disconnecting. And you can damage your hearing if you're wearing only one. There's a lot of research now. If you pull out one in-ear, you're generally going to destroy your hearing, and it's not good for your ears to have only one in-ear.
You see that a lot.
And here's why. Because, and you can do your research, you can Google this, but if you turn up, you tend to turn up the volume of the left ear. Let's say you pull your right ear out.
Okay.
You're going to crank up your pack because now you're hearing all this loud music in your open ear, and now you're going to crank up your pack to match that in your left ear, which is going to be this cranking loud, excuse me, it's going to be a really loud thing. So you damage your hearing when you do that. And you also lose the feel of the band in-ears. When you are on a completely quiet stage, you don't have that, the thumpy of the drum set going. You might still have a drum set, but the bass is not there. I mean, it feels really empty unless your in-ear mix is killer. So if you're going to make them work, if you have to have in-ears and you want to make them work, the only thing I found to do, and it's imperative that you do this, is you make them work by putting, first of all, you have to have your own mix. Aviom, like the Behringer X32 digital console has a phone app that everybody can use. Make sure you hook that up. And some people run that board and don't even know that, but it has an app. You can actually do all your own mixing in your ears. And you have to add a room mic into your board.
So, a room mic, okay.
A big fat room mic hang from the ceiling right in the middle of the room, or put it somewhere so that in your in-ear mix, you, like on channel 16, you call it room mic, and you can add in the room mic to your in-ear mix, and then it sounds like you're in the room.
That's what's going to make you feel connected to the band.
You can hear the congregation sing. You can hear the natural reverb of the room. It really makes it's weird, because if you do it right, you can almost trick yourself to not believe you even have in-ears in.
So I think a lot of churches hesitate to use the in-ear monitors because of the expense and because of the learning curve involved. Is that right?
It's true, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper. Like if you have the Behringer X32 now, which everybody has that board almost, that has a
soundboard.
Soundboard. Then you can everybody has their iPhone, and they can actually use their iPhone to make their own mix. But you still have to have the other system with getting the in-ears into your ear, like the packs. The really expensive part for you guys who are kind of getting into this, is the wireless packs. Okay, there's a cheaper way to do it, and there's stuff online you can check out. Just Google, cheap way to. But the cheapest way to do it is just run like a headphone mix off the board. Different ways to do it to where you don't have to have everybody on wireless. Even in the big churches I was playing with, we would have the front line would have wireless packs, which are very expensive. But then the back line, the drummer, bass player, guitar, the guys that were back behind those, we would just plug into a cable that came out of the wall, and those don't cost very much money.
Okay.
So most of your band can really just be on a cabled system, which is cheap. And then maybe the worship leader has a wireless pack, or maybe the people up front have a wireless pack, and those are the expensive part. But yeah, and the learning curve. Everybody has to learn to do it. There's different ways. Like at the church I play with, they would have one guy at rehearsal. He's a sound guy, and he's the monitor mixer. He would walk around on stage with the iPad so that anybody who wanted to change their mix, they would just raise their hand, and he'd come over and he'd fix it on the fly. He'd keep doing it all through rehearsal.
But now you're saying that people can do this on their own phones.
They can, but if you got a bunch of new people coming in and they don't know how to use their phones, they wouldn't tell everybody about that part.
Oh,
they would be like,
sense.
We can fix it for you with the iPad, but then once you realize, well, hey, I'm pretty good at this, they would be like, okay, well, here's your iPhone password to get into the mixer for you. And they would give certain band members the ability that were ready to mix their own mix on their iPhones. But then they have that guy at practice who would just walk around and be like, anybody needs a monitor mix, I'm good. And I think that's good because, you get to the service, and by the time you've had 2 or 3 run-throughs and practice and then Sunday morning run-through, your monitors shouldn't change much by that point. And that's it.
Having the phone app, I didn't know about this until just now, but I'm thinking what a great idea this was, because that takes all of those little stand boards, like little mini mixing
mixers.
boards.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're all off the stage. That cleans up a ton of stage area and cuts the cost down considerably.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some new companies out doing some really cool stuff with this, to where the whole system is run off the phone, and you just buy an extra computer and some other stuff. I'll put some links in that into my show notes because technology has changed a lot. Now, I still love the Aviom. I love that physical blue mixer, or the Behringer has one that's cheaper that you can just reach down and change it really fast. The phone app is cool because you can just show up at church and be like, hey, let me get the phone app, password, and they give it to you and you have it. And then but you have to keep your phone on, you put it in your pocket, or if somebody, you have to turn it, there's.
Yeah, I guess if your phone died in the middle of service, that could be.
It's good. It's what you can afford. Yeah, I really personally like the blue mixers because I want them right there. And if I was leading worship a little bit more steadily and I was forced into a phone app scenario, I had my phone on an actual phone stand. Like I had a little arm off my mic stand, and my phone was in a cradle, and I would just leave it on and I could just mess with it. But what I found with that system is by the time you got started, you didn't want to mess with it because you're leading worship. You're not going to sit there and open your phone. Your phone would keep sleeping. You have to keep opening it and going back to the app. So the Avioms are, to me, a little more user-friendly on stage, but extremely, I think when we bought our Aviom unit back in the day, it was like $6,000, $7,000. So if you have a Behringer X32, you can literally implement in-ears like now for just everybody open your phone, and here's some cables that we got running from this mixer thing. So it's cheaper. It's doable. You have to know what you want, but that's why I love and hate in-ears. And everybody is going to in-ears. Look, you can go on Amazon, check the links on worshipbandbuilder.com/podcast, because right here you have a $100 set of in-ears, okay? And they're on Amazon, Shure SE 2015s. You have also a $22 pair of Yinyu KZ ZST hybrid balanced in-ears. They're basically like exaggerated headphones. You can even use headphones. You can even use your little Apple AirPods, but they don't close out the sound. So you've got closed ear, open ear, half open ear, but a real set of in-ears closes out all the sound.
Is that what you think is the best?
That's what I think is the best. If you're going to do it right. Use completely closed in-ear. I have a pair that they cost $400, but I got them on sale used from some guy on reverb.com for $99 or $100. So they were much better but for about $100, if you're just starting, you can get a set of in-ears for $100. The ones that I really want, if I was going to use them all, they're more like $1,200. This is for a set of earplugs, earphones, They're molded to your ear. They're high-end, 3-driver types. They can go all the way from like $600-700 is the next level up to $12 or $15. They can get super expensive. But I'm telling you all this because I use a pair that I bought for $100 on Reverb, basically on eBay. And you can put new little earbuds on them. You want something that will close up your ears. You're not going to get the first pair, and you just don't be afraid to test a few pair. Get some that really block out the sound that fit in your ear. And my ears are 2 different sizes in the holes. So sometimes it's hard to find out. In other words, just figure out what works for you, but start with cheap ones. We use cheap ones at our church now, and they stick them in there and they work. If you want to have really, really good sound, you're going to spend some cash. You might spend $100 to $400. And if you want to get really, really good, you're going to spend probably about $1,000 on your personal set of headphones.
Yeah.
So it can get expensive. But like our church is doing really good, and they just bought these these $20 ones or 30. I think they're like $29 or $39 on Amazon.
Okay.
They've got plastic ear things, and you can wipe them off with alcohol, and everybody can use them the next week. So, I mean, it's kind of weird. I have my own set because I travel and I play different places, and most people will. They'll have their own set that they just plug in, and that's the best way.
Yeah, because that just seems a little yucky.
It's pretty yucky, but I mean, churches do it. And back in Illinois, everybody had their own set of like the yellow buds that went on the tip. And so
this is not specific to Illinois. This is just a place where we led worship in Illinois.
Those people in Illinois, they like to share earphones.
All of the Illinoisans. What do you call someone from Illinois? I don't Illinois.
I've got different words. I'm not going to say them.
We have friends in Illinois that we absolutely love. So
shout out to Nate Westerfield. But at Nate's church, when we used to be at his place, we would have the same. Everybody used the same ear pieces, but we have our own. Like they had their own tips that went on that went in your ear. So you had your own tips, and you just put them on the thing. So there's different systems. Don't be afraid of it. It's definitely another world. It takes a lot of technical advice, and it takes a lot of trial and error. And at the end of the day, I promise you, you will still get up on stage, put your inners in, and probably kind of hate them, until they're really tweaked in, and then you can start to like them. But it's a process. It's something that my biggest takeaway to really on the in-ears is have a room mic and have your own mix. Period. If you can't have those two things, I would stay with a floor wedge.
So, okay, can you just help me with, is there still a really big gap between having floor or mini monitors as opposed to purchasing the in-ear monitors? Is there still a great expanse between the two prices?
Yeah. I think so.
Yes. So you think a lot of churches will still opt for floor or mini monitors?
If you're on a tight budget with a small team, you're gonna try to make floor wedges work, because just break it down. If each floor wedge costs you $250, and you have 3 of them, that's $750. And you're done. You can put those around the stage, and you can kind of put 3 aux mixes off any mixing board has usually 4 to 8 auxes. Okay, so let's say if you really want an in-ear system, you're probably looking, one Aviom unit, one unit costs like $300 or $400, $250, $300. So if you bought 5 of those, you're at $1,500, and you still don't have any in-ear actual things to put in people's ears.
Okay.
So you're at double the cost, and you haven't even got the system built yet. So there are really, I've seen some guys online who have got some really smart. It is getting to where you can get the budget down and get an in-ear system that might be close, but really wedges are still just super cheap now. I mean, you can throw 3 powered wedges on your stage for probably $600, and put a shield around your drums. And you're not going to touch an in-ear system for that. But we are getting closer. Like with the X32 Behringer, you can literally, I think, just use a headphone amp that might cost $100, $200, and attach that to some cables that are $20 a piece and put them in your ears, and you could use your iPhones. And so you could get, if you have the Behringer X32 mixer, then you probably could do it for the same price.
Is that just for example, or is that pretty much the only mixer that...
It's the low line budget, budget line church mixer, and the Behringer X32 is what we have, and a lot of churches have it, but there are other digital consoles that have the same kind of thing, like the Yamaha version or the Mackie version. They're all going to have sort of a similar thing with an app to it that you can use the app and tweak it out and make it work. So yeah, I mean, if you have any questions about this, surely send me some notes. I'll send you some more notes. worshipbandbuilder.com/podcast. This one is going long, so we've got to get off here. We will talk more about in-ear monitors all through the year, and we'll do a lot more also in our audio training online and foundations. You can join that at worshipbandbuilder.com. And God bless you. Happy mixing, but always just hear yourself and do your best and tweak on. That's all I say. Just keep tweaking.
Quote of the day.
Just keep tweaking. All right, we'll see you next time.